I feel kind of bad for it.
It appears Vanitas has just got
I-
hit with the rocket
that-
virus.
Like
Puns.
in universe, that probably lasted like just a few seconds.
About
The whole
12,
fight.
about 12 seconds, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I'm eating my food. Oh god, dead.
Pretty much. So yeah. And Alistair, you're kind of standing there like the cactuar kind of runs up next to your side and just starts hopping up and down. Really happy, and the rest of you
You're
sort of watch as
welcome.
like the other three cactuars that were still alive sort of come running up to all of you, cheerful and happy, and sort of sprinting a place, like, you know, just running on the spot with these happy, excited little thankful squeaks as they start running in circles around you, cartwheeling, just.
Well, we made them happy.
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't that bad.
All right, so you for that encounter, for that.
Wait, where's the shiny?
Well, give me a moment for one thing. You do get some harvest from the dead cactuar.
I mean, do we...
If you want to do
I
that in
feel-
front of their friends.
You just see a couple lying around. If you want to take 2 gold needles, you may.
Alright.
Can we do that without repercussions?
Yeah, the cactuars don't seem to be too worried about it. It's almost like saying, please, you saved the rest of us, just have a reward. Like, we'll actually go ahead and say that those gold needles, like, they're actually just picking them off their head and just handing them to you.
And gold needles are used to cure petrification,
Those cure petrification. Also,
Well, if you
give me a moment.
want us to.
Do we get pearl?
You also get 500 gil.
Add
Cool.
that to the group pile.
Yep, and yes, you get the pearl. It sort of falls out of part of the, sort of comes dislodged from it, split down the side mouth, just falls to the ground. And you go and pick it up, and it's, you know, it's encrusted with a bit of ice from Mika's Blazara, but it's still perfectly functional, and it
The
appears.
new precious.
What is this crystal specifically again?
It's called an antlion pearl, and it's about the size of your fist. And as you understand it, thanks to Rocket's previous analysis, it is worth a lot of money for alchemists and potion makers. It's very,
So, anybody have any idea how much this thing is worth?
A lot. I'll keep hold of it for the time being. And speaking of, she says, kind of just putting it in her bag as she passes, then walking down here.
he goes coming along.
We have a visitor.
Thanks for the aid.
Ah, yes.
Who are you?
Her.
The woman with the rabbit ears kind of looks at all of you for a second, and you actually watch as the 4 cactuars that you saved sort of go cartwheeling up the side of the rock face that she's on and gather up behind her.
Friends of yours?
Who are you?
Well, I'm Nee. This is Alistair, Mika, Kyra, Thanatos, and Rocket, the cyborg jogging chocobo.
Hello.
Are you
And
aware
I-
that you trespass upon forbidden sacred ground?
Not really, no.
Technically, your friends there asked us to come here.
I am well aware of that. Alas, we were temporarily separated when that beast attacked.
Well,
And you
we
notice
took
at this
that
and you
for-
notice at this point she still has her bow drawn, and she does have an arrow knocked, though not drawn. So like she looks like she's ready to loose an arrow at a moment's notice.
We did
Wait.
take care of it for you.
We're not here for any trouble. We have no quarrel with you, your cactuars, or anything. We are searching for a friend of ours who was taken against her will and has been imprisoned, as far as we know, in a temple-like structure in this area.
The woman raises an eyebrow.
Imprisoned in a temple.
That is what we've
not.
surmised.
That is not possible. The only temple in this area is strictly sealed. Nothing has entered it in thousands of years.
Does the name Murasan bring any thoughts to mind? It's a Mithra in a blue robe.
I am unfamiliar.
He's a very powerful man and kind of worships a long dead god called Diabolos. He
You're cutting
heard
out.
of
it.
You're cutting out.
Cutting out a lot.
You're cutting out, Tom.
Bloody hell. Am I still robotic?
Not at the moment, but who knows if that will last.
We might be, hopefully the limited thing. Alright, try that again. Mursan is a servant of a supposedly long dead god called Diabolo. Last we heard of him, he was at this temple. He had taken our friend.
Make a negotiation check.
Damn it.
Do you have a lot in negotiation?
3.
Oh, well, fuck.
Nine.
Uh-oh.
She does not seem swayed. And she's looking down at you from her vantage point.
On the grounds that you have saved my friends, I will let you off with a warning. The grounds you stand upon are forbidden to outsiders. By rights, I should have punctured your heads with arrows long ago, but as you saved my comrades, I shall give you this chance to leave. None are
Could you,
permitted to enter here.
Can you at least tell us what this place is? And why it's so forbidden?
She sort of turns to look out over the Badlands and the various decayed husks of trees that sort of are scattered all over with this distant look in her eye for a moment before saying,
You stand amid what was once the great Sumlana Empire.
Some llama. An empire before the Battalion.
she turns back to you and says,
I am not aware of the goings-on of the world beyond this graveyard.
What happened here?
She seems reluctant to answer at first, though the cactar that came to talk to all of you sort of scuttles up to her side, like tugs on her skirt a little bit and sort of looks up at her. She looks down at it for a few seconds, and you get the impression that it's giving her the equivalent of big puppy dog eyes, though to you its face remains unchanging. It just makes a sort of low, withering, sort of tiny squeak, just... And after a few seconds, the woman just... She unknocks the arrow, puts it back in its quiver, puts the bow over her shoulder, and puts it away on her back before looking down at the rest of you.
If it is words you would exchange, then let us not trade them here. The wilderness is a dangerous place. I will escort you back to my camp and we may speak there. Since my friend seems to be so insistent.
Thank you. I just hope that we're not going to be too much trouble, and do not worry. We can't really stay long anyway. As long as we find Elizabeth, we'll be gone.
Follow me.
And she turns and sort of walks down the thing and starts leaving the clearing.
No room for argument here. Let's not dally.
All right. So...
Also, I hope Mika has notes at the ready, because she's going to want to take them.
Yeah, she's definitely taking notes.
Solving the mystery of the Irvian Badlands.
So, Thanatos, do you think it's completely lifeless now?
Well, they said there were locals, and they were right. They don't really like outsiders. She almost put an arrow in our heads.
I imagine for good reason. Let's hear the story and see if we can't convince her to either let us go or, at most, keep an eye on us as we go to this temple.
So when she says we're on sacred ground, does she mean like the whole Badlands or just this one specific area?
If this
Well,
was
figure
home
it out.
for people, then
Old structures in ruins, everything dead, yes. We are practically on what used to be the home. So
of a
try to treat
species
them
I've
with a
never
little
seen before.
respect.
Mika, has there ever been any folk tales or stories of a species kind of similar to Mithra, but with bunny ears?
None that I've heard of.
Oh.
Oh, just think.
professors are going to have. I hope the professors give you an A grade for the inevitable paper you can write on this.
I hope so.
And you notice that, like, the thing she's she's jotting her notes down in is actually her book that she uses to communicate with her teacher.
By the way, guys, met a new species that had been forgotten by the time.
All right. So
New old species.
the woman leads you for a time through the Badlands, sort of a generally southeastish direction, until eventually the sun is setting when you come across this sort of natural valley in the rocky terrain, sort of protected on all sides by large rocky mesas. And down in the bottom, you see a strange oasis of life down below. You see large trees, not tropical looking, but very dense, almost like Amazon rainforest trees. Tall, large, big leaves, very moist. There's this sort of small, like, miniature lake in the middle of it. And you see a few scattered tents sort of around it, like a permanent encampment. There's a bonfire in the middle that looks like it's seen a lot of use built up over time. Plenty of like large clay pots and things like that, tanning racks, and you see a few more cactars just sort of scuttling around in that campsite as you're approaching, and they sort of turn to look as the group is approaching, sort of hop up and down, squealing, and run up to greet the woman, and as they're approaching, she gets this sort of more gentle look on her face.
I apologize for our lateness. We were waylaid.
She glances back at the rest of you, narrows her eyes.
For the record, these little ones are almost like children to me. Treat them well.
Like I said before, we never had any intention of causing trouble.
I should hope not.
She looks down at the cactars and says something in a language none of you understand. And they sort of immediately perk up, chirp, and then just go cartwheeling off towards the pond.
I was always under the impression cactars don't interact with other species well.
They typically don't, but when you raise a bundle of them,
You raised them.
they have been my only company for the last 200 years.
Aww.
200
years?
My people are rather long-lived, compared to you, it would seem.
We've never seen a species like yourself.
There are no records of your kind either.
At least none that we know of. If they are, they're probably buried in some archive somewhere.
We never left the jungle.
Jungle?
Well,
Don't.
we have a small bit of jungle around us. That's like the oasis. I take it the entire Badlands was like this once, then.
Once upon a time, all of what you call the Irvian Badlands were part of the Somlana Empire, whose borders were dictated by the jungle that was named after it.
She turns to the southwest and sort of points towards the horizon.
All that remains of the jungle now is nestled along the coastline.
Wow.
You said you would tell us why. No one really knows.
Yes, come along.
She heads down directly into the camp and sits down by the fireplace and sort of does something with it for a bit, and then a flame lights up, and she sort of gestures to a few sort of rudimentary rugs that are scattered around it.
Sit.
Sitting?
Once you're all seated, and she's sort of sitting cross-legged, some of the cactars that she sent off towards the water come back, and they have like more clay bowls that they're somehow perfectly balancing, even as their limbs just spontaneously just twitch back and forth, and like they're like balancing it by bouncing it on whatever limb is happening to be pointing up at the time as they cartwheel towards you.
Perfectly balanced, like all things should be.
And so yeah, you all get a thing of water to soothe any thirst you have, and as the woman takes her first sort of sip, she looks to all of you and says,
First, an introduction. I know all of your names, but you do not know mine. I am Vis.
Peace.
Pleasure to meet you, Beast.
I am a watcher for what remains of the Somlana Empire. I guard these lands and ensure that outsiders do not trespass where they do not belong.
Sounds almost like a ranger.
There are, I suppose, similarities. Although, it is worth noting...
She sort of lifts her hand and you see it glowing with green light for a moment before she drops it back down.
I doubt you are capable of spellcraft.
Well, we'll have to find out in my chapter, won't we? Well, not as far as I know. That's more biggest thing, she says as she kind of lifts her.
Hi.
Vis gives a slow nod.
So then,
So,
you wish to know what became of these lands?
If
Of course.
it's
If
trouble.
not too much trouble.
If it will help ensure more outsiders do not come here when they are not welcome, I suppose sharing some of the tale will do no harm. I've chased away many an outsider, but thus far you are the only ones who I've deemed fit to speak with.
We appreciate that.
Truly, mostly honored.
Thousands of years ago, this entire region, as I once said, was all part of the great Somlana jungle. My people, the Viera, called that jungle their home, alongside another group, the Clarins, a group of individuals akin in stature to rats. Short yet graceful, elegant and swift, with a culture interesting and fascinating in its own right. For an age, our two peoples were often in conflict with one another. The term in your tongue would be isolationists. We kept to ourselves and did not take kindly to intruders. But as we shared the jungle, we eventually learned to share each other's presence over generations. And so an alliance was formed. And that peace reigned for many centuries, until one day, in the mines of the capital city, in the mines beneath the capital city of the Clarins, Bemesia, there was a discovery. And it drove them mad.
what did they find?
My people call it the Koalit Scourge. Koalit meaning fire eye.
Is it a crystal glowing orange?
I believe so, yes. How would you know?
Amber.
That is your word for it?
Yeah, there's an entire coastline in areas that have been consumed. The guy we mentioned, Murasan, and he uses it quite frequently.
I see.
It's been a constant fight for us.
I had hoped the aspirations of the Scourge did not extend beyond this graveyard, but it seems I was mistaken. Nevertheless, the city of Bemesia was locked down to try and contain this affliction, and one of their greatest sages was sent to try and dispel the threat. Alas, he underestimated its influence. I can only assume that it butchered his mind, scouring it for whatever it was he feared the most. The sage was a very zealous man, as I am told. Faith above all else, as far as he was concerned. And so he feared nothing more than the Claren's god of death, pestilence, and destruction.
Diabolos.
No. That
No?
is not the word. Their name, for that being was Hades. Hey, I'm drawing directly from Final Fantasy shit here. This has nothing to do with you, Hades. It's pure coincidence.
I know, but
I'm sorry.
I found it amusing.
See, Hades, you're the cause of everyone's brother's end.
I cause pain everywhere.
Oh no, we are doomed.
Yeah, so Vis continues telling the tale after a sip of water.
With such a powerful wielder of magic under the sway of the Scourge, twisting him into the resemblance of his greatest fear, the Scourge was practically unstoppable. The entire city of Bermesia, overnight, was corrupted and turned. The Clarens who call that land home became Velkas.
Velkas. Those we've met. Or at least
heard of. Out of fear of inciting the apocalyptic rage of their newly manifested deity, the Velkas swarmed and pledged fealty to the newly birthed Hades, and he led a campaign through the Somlana jungle, spurred by the Scourge, unleashing a miasma of death and disease that reduced all in its wake to mud and death and ash. She gestures up towards the edge of the valley where some dead trees lie. Trees withered. Life turned to mush. Entire settlements of Viera and Clarens alike, overnight, were twisted and corrupted into more forces to fuel his insane lust for more. The Scourge was relentless, and none of our magic seemed capable of reversing it. Not truly. We could not stop the corruption, merely exchange it. An art all of my people now know.
you burned your own land to be rid of the Amber.
We did not burn anything. This was done by Hades, this death. We tried to stall him, however we could. And to do that we had to take the corruption unto ourselves, the greatest mages of our cultures, those who walk the path of the green. They took the Scourge into their own bodies. Their hardened wills from years of studying arcane allowed them to withstand far more than the common people, sparing many a gruesome end before it claimed the mages too. It was not a perfect solution, and we still lost much ground, but it at least slowed Hades' advance, and gave the rest of us time to find a more permanent solution.
And did you?
We did, though it cost us greatly. And by the time we were able to put that plan into motion, the vast majority of the Somlana jungle had already been reduced to the badlands that surround us. But nevertheless, my predecessors and a massive contingent of surviving knights from the Clarens worked together to lure Hades to a place where he could be imprisoned forever. 60 people on that expedition went. 6 returned. Bloodied, broken, and not long for this world, but successful. Hades was sealed.
Sealed where?
Is it that tomb?
I cannot tell you where he was sealed, for none are permitted to enter, not even my own kind.
That's the thing. Could you at least tell us if it wasn't that temple? Because that temple, Murasan, who we mentioned, it's what you describe is what's happening to the rest of the continent, Eno, now. This Murasan is like that mage priest of your time who went crazy, started spreading all of that. He's here now in the Evian Badlands.
Is it possible he's trying to break the seal on this Hades?
If he does, then we have two horrors to deal with. One is bad enough without two.
Murasan is already an incredibly powerful mage in service of this god you describe, who we call Diabolos. I mean, we have the Amber Eternal over at the eastern coast. There's the Amber coast near Endlum. Marasu barely avoided that fate when we came along.
Well, when Hades was sealed away in a sacred place known as Kinatoa, the corruption of the scourge, while it remained, no longer spreads. It was stopped.
Stopped here, maybe.
But
The god didn't sleep. He just looked elsewhere.
Make a negotiation check. And go ahead and add a +2 to that.
Gee.
Vis contemplates your words for a moment.
You say a friend was taken.
Her name is Elizabeth. He's Murasan, this mage, much like the one from your past. He's been trying to turn her into this creature, an angel of chains. He took her only a couple days ago.
He uses the darkness of people to manipulate them.
She'd been a prisoner of these Velkas, tortured for years. He used that to get into her head.
And now we're here to save her and help her as best we can. And stop Mirasan.
I understand that we're outsiders. You keep to yourselves for a very good reason. But
It is to ensure Hades is not released that the Watchers remain among the Badlands. To ensure no unwitting outsider stumble upon his prison and accidentally see him released back into the world.
Or a very powerful mage who wants to try.
please, I know we're strangers to you, but considering everything that is happening, allow us to continue, but accompany us, keep an eye on us, warn us if we are treading too far, see for yourself what is happening, if it is what we believe. Because if what you told us is true and what I'm thinking in my head is right, Murasan may be trying to release his counterpart from your era. And I would very much like your accompaniment and advice, if so, because I need to lay all cards on the table. Murasan has, from what his cryptic comments would suggest, has plans for us, and a trap I would rather not step into. But we can't leave Elizabeth in his hands. I don't want to see this jungle or any other jungle across Eno, my home, the retained forest, become more of this wasteland. That's what we're fighting to stop every day, and have been for better the past last year.
Vis closes her eyes and hums quietly, and after a moment she says a few things under her breath in a language none of you understand before opening her eyes, looking to the rest of you.
I will think on what you have said, and I will give you my answer in the morning. For now, though, it is growing late. You are welcome to rest in my encampment for the night, though do not take anything without my permission. If you have your own supplies, I would ask that you rely on them instead of mine.
We do, and we will.
Good. She then stands up and makes her way over to one of the towering trees that sort of looms over this valley and starts climbing it in a series of expert hops and jumps and rests. Like, you get the impression she's climbed this thing many times before. The Keknars kind of watch her go and with a few withering squeaks just sort of slowly roll and cartwheel off and disappear into some of the shrubbery around the bases of the trees, and you are all effectively left alone.
This is bad. This temple. I have theories coming to mind, and one is that this temple is where this Hades is being kept, and if Murasan is leading us a trap there and wants us to do something for him inadvertently, like she said, outsiders could unwittingly release this Hades.
Which now I'm trying to figure out how. Is it through Elizabeth? Or is he expecting us to accidentally?
Or is she
Elizabeth-
just the bait?
And exactly, Elizabeth could be part of it, or she could just be leading us to him so he can have us do the dirty work. If she can come with us, I would like that, because she would be an expert opinion on what to do and what not to do.
A thought just came to mind, guys. When Vyse said that only 6 people came back from the expedition to seal Hades, right?
Right?
So 6 people were needed at least to seal him.
I see where you're getting at.
And how many people are we bringing?
6.
More
Plus-
than 6.
Plus her. If she does help us, that would be 7.
I feel like that might be more of a coincidence than anything.
Well, it's a thought. Still,
Yeah.
Marathon is obviously trying to lure us there, either through Elizabeth or trying to use Elizabeth to do something there. But he wants us there. So
Or
maybe
maybe it's both.
Turning back is an option, but it's not a good one, because even if
We
he
are
needs
not
us,
abandoning her.
let me finish. Even if he needs us, if we left, one, Elizabeth would be left in his clutches who to say what he'd do with her, and he might just find another. We can't just abandon either cause.
I wasn't suggesting we abandon it, but still,
I know, I wasn't saying you were, I'm just laying it out. What's at stake?
still, this Hades is concerning. If this,
He's their version of Murasan. He seems Diablo's tried what he's trying now a long time in the past. You see the
Which
result.
which makes me fear that this Hades may be even stronger than Murasan.
Depends on if his powers grown while he was in exile. I suppose they could be of equal strength.
It's also possible that his power might have dwindled.
That's Mika pointing
I'd
out.
hope so. I'd hope so.
I mean, it would make sense. I mean, if when he was
So-
sealed, the scourge, or, their equivalent of the plague, I guess, stopped in its tracks, then that would imply his power can't leave wherever he is. And if it can't leave where he is, then other power, unless brought in by an individual, can't get in. Which means he wouldn't be able to draw any power, so in theory, his own internal reserves would have dwindled with time, especially if he blew a lot of it trying to fight off the people sealing him and then escape. If I were a betting girl,
not-
I'd say he's weaker now than he ever was before.
Chapter final boss. Here we go.
Out of character, yes. But it's,
Not Elizabeth after all, unless we still have to fight her. Yeah.
But the question is, if it does get out and we can't put it back in, do you think we're enough to destroy it?
Maybe. I don't know.
if it's true that he's possibly weaker than when they sealed him, maybe. The
If
thing
we
that,
can prevent Murasan from giving him more power.
see, that's what's concerning me. Murasan will be there, and we already know for sure that we're no match for him.
Either way, we can't let him have his way with Elizabeth, and we can't let Hades go free. Because one Murasan is bad enough. 2?
It's a nightmare.
Especially if he gets out and he gets all of his power back. It'd be
Not to
even worse.
mention, if this Hades is capable of doing all this, imagine if it gone global. There'd be nothing stopping it. We wouldn't have Diablos to worry about. It'd be Hades.
Oh, but Hades is a servant of Diabolos, even if he's a different name, and we have seen the effects of this goes global all around us right now. Amber Eternal, Amber Coast.
True. But I reckon this thing's capable of wiping out everything before it shows up. Which is not going to be easy if Morasan does fucking intervene and make
This
it
is
stronger.
just what we need. More demigods to deal with.
Well, this is what happens when you try to be the hero. It's not going to get easier. It's only going to get harder.
Still,
Figures we go to save a damsel in distress, and now we're gonna have to fight 2 dark god mages thing.
all this is the cost of Diabolos' world coming back. Whatever happened in the past, at present, can't be allowed.
Maybe
Costs too much.
that is, we talk like this, and V still hasn't given us her answer. She could just very well tell us to fuck off.
Well, it's her choice. But whatever
Right.
happens, we are not abandoning Elizabeth, and we're not letting that thing, Hades, emerge from that tomb.
I would not be surprised if she's listening to us right now, but either way, I hope she makes the right choice, because we can't ignore this. Now more than ever. You were just coming home, Alistair, to deal with your own personal problems. Now we have yet another world-ending threat.
Yes, and since this threat is even closer to mine and your home, we must do everything that we can to prevent it.
That makes a good point. I'm surprised Vitae hasn't made some kind of tracks into this land to do some kind of research.
I imagine some from my home have in the past, but like
She did.
they said, they've always turned people back.
True. I guess
Plus-
it would make sense as to why people don't come in here, other than it being like literal.
Nika, your professor said anything in response to your inevitable essay you've written so far?
She's looking at her book and, sort of writes something in it. A few seconds later, it glows as she gets a reply, and she looks back up at you and says, he's just as curious as I am.
Although,
So-
what I'm curious of, Mika, she said the jungle to the southwestern point of the continent was there. She said that was the last remnants of the empire.
I'm gonna get out a map and show. Here, there's some land of jungle, like she said. There's a huge chunk of it left on that landmass.
Like I
Which makes
said,
me wonder if there's going to be villages and towns of these people still functioning.
so is there any information from that part of the continent, Mika?
She writes down in her book. A couple moments later, gets a reply, looks up and says,
Not that either me or my teacher knows right off the top of our heads. To get to the Sumlana jungles, people would have to brave the Badlands first, and no one's ever braved far enough to get there.
Fair point.
Or boat around, though I have a feeling that probably, if there are settlements there, that probably ended the same way as our trip to Marasu.
Probably. Shut down.
Possibly.
The only ones I can think of who might have any sort of rapport with this Sumlana Empire and the Vierans and Clarins would probably be Piera Oasis, but that's still a long shot.
Well, we can. That's not important right now. What's important right now is that we find this temple. My question is whether are we going to go there, whether Vis says yes or no.
There's only one way to find out.
Kyra sort
Get
of...
some rest and regain your strength.
Kyra opens her mouth at this point and says,
The way I see it, we don't really have much of a choice, do we? Even if she disapproves, we've got to try and stop whatever this Mursan dick's trying to get at. If that
Think of
means
it this way. If she says no and we go anyway, she's going to follow us and hopefully she'll then see what's going on for herself.
And what if she tries to shoot us?
We run and don't fight back. Make sure that she knows that we mean our words. We're not going to fight her. We mean no harm.
Well, if anything, Mika can probably just put her to sleep.
At most, if worse comes to worse. But I really don't want us to fight her in any way. This is her home and we need her help. And frankly, she needs us.
Yeah, but we're outsiders.
Well, Batea, I can sympathize. Batea's not always been the friendliest place. Empire.
Yep. The old Empire kind of got shitty there at the end before it splintered into the Confederacy that it is now.
Quite. Well, I guess we just rest for the night, and hopefully she makes the right decision in the morning.
That's what I'm going with.
Also, might I say, I may hate the desert, but cacti are adorable.
Trust me, you don't want to get too attached to them.
Oh, is that a hilarious story I'm not aware of? Did one of them just spike you in the face or butt?
Let's just say that they pop up around Kurzatan every now and then, and they just like to mess with. And yes, a couple of people did come back with quite a few needles in their backsides.
Oh, that's not what I was laughing about.
And
Am I rubbing off on you?
And Thanatos, and Thanatos, in your head, you hear Caius going, "Oh, not mentioning the time you got shot in the calf, huh?
Shush.
You were hopping for a week.
I will end you.
You'd need to end yourself, so..."
Is he talking to himself again? Literally.
It's just Kyra. See, Kyra, I'm sure you have plenty
That's
of
what I'm
stories.
on about.
See, Kyra, I'm sure you have plenty of stories you could share and bond over, she says with a cheeky wink.
Note to self, get Anastasia drunk so much, maybe his other side may come out. Oh, nothing. This way. We've got a bigger day tomorrow.
I'm legitimately confused. When did Alice here have a other side?
He's implying that if he gets drunk a lot like you do, then maybe he'll get a dark side.
Nah, I was implying him.
I just go dormant.
All my friends are weird.
That's established.
Kyra's just giggling at your banter.
Well, at least we're entertaining.
No reaction or remark from Kyra over Nee's comment there?
She did react with like a blinking like a like sort of like a non-committal shrug, like like she not so subtly dodged the question, just like I'm a sidestep of that.
I'm okay. I must have missed that one. What did Nee say?
Nee said to Kyra, "See, you have plenty of stories of which you could bond over." With a wink.
Thanatos is going to be very confused and just going to ignore that.
Okay.
He's so oblivious. It's adorable.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
should we get some sleep then?
That's Mika.
Of all the words you've used to describe me, Nee, I didn't think adorable would be one of them.
We learn new things every day. But yes, Mika's right. We should rest.
Yeah.
Alright. And you all bed down for the night. You take a full rest. And as sleep takes you, do any of you want to stay up and keep a watch yourself, or do you want to leave that responsibility to Vise?
I think Thanatos will stay up for a while.
As for Adesai, he would just basically keep thinking about what's going to happen to Elizabeth and also Hades. Just a lot going through his mind.
Right, so Thanatos is up keeping watch, and Alistair is up because he can't sleep. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. In that case, we're going to keep going for a little bit here.
Okay, I just had one thing I wanted to try.
Okay.
Caius?
Yes.
This Hades thing that they're going on about, is it another dark side manifestation, possibly?
I don't think so. As I've said before, the manifestation of a dark side such as myself or Elizabeth's chain angel form is something that comes from within. It can be spurred on by external stimuli, but it is a purely internal manifestation. In your case, it's a split personality that can physically manifest. In Elizabeth, it's an entire transformation. However, it sounds to me like this Hades individual, much like the seed of the plague, was created from external corruption from Amber. It's not a dark side.
But
It's
it
just
did feed off. But it did feed off his fear, from what V said, turning him into one thing he feared the most.
It's possible that if it was the Amber, it was simply using that as a means of amassing more power and weakening the enemies. Demoralization. And we know Diablos is intelligent. It makes sense that his reach would be as well.
I got a really bad feeling about this.
You and me both. So keep your eyes peeled.
Let's just say if we have the boss battle, let's not go for round.
You're asleep, but okay.
No, I mean, I'm pretty sure we're probably going to cut it after but that's up to DM.
I got one more thing. So, Alistair. I'm assuming that you try to sleep for a while, but just can't, so you just I'm assuming that you'd park yourself by the pond. Right. So I'll go ahead and say that you just sort of crouch down by the water. There's some moonlight coming down from overhead. It's sort of a half moon right now. You're looking up at it from afar, just thinking to yourself. A little while passes before you hear steps approaching from behind, and you look back and you see Vise approaching.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't sleep. What's up?
I have some questions of my own for you.
Okay. What kind of questions?
She comes to a stop, say maybe 6 or 7 feet off to your left, remains standing, sort of crosses her arms over her chest while looking out at the water.
You described this woman, Elizabeth, as your friend, yes?
That's what I like to try to see her as. It's confusing.
And your friend, the Elvan, I believe is the term?
Yes.
She described a transformation of some description. Chains and angels. I would know more of this.
Okay. Where should I start, then?
How you know her would be appropriate, and then what you know of her condition and this change that this Murasan appears to want to make her undergo. I will not be making any decisions while underinformed. I want to know everything.
Of course. I guess just to start from the beginning.
I am
Before I became a paladin, my master had another. Her name was Elizabeth. Very talented, also strong, and has a few new things that make her unique compared to me. For one thing, she has a healing factor that helps her out. And it seems, from what I've heard from the stories, they handle problems very well until one incident. They were both separated, and my master was unable to save Elizabeth. The Vulgar did terrible things to her, which, just in case you're not sure what they are, would they hang on, that's out of context. Were they rat people or
I mean, she knows what the Velka are. The Velka were born from...
Yeah, the Velker are amber corrupted versions of Clarins, and they're anthropomorphic rat people. I can go ahead and I'll find some pictures to drop in FFD in the Discord chat while you're talking.
Okay then, if you wish.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Vulgar cut flesh off her. They experimented and also did some terrible sick things in the name of the whatever they believe in.
In the name of Hades, no doubt. Once he was sealed, many of the Velkas took to trying to appease him from afar through ritualistic blood sacrifices, hoping to stave off their predicted apocalyptic rage.
Whether they were trying to do it for her healing properties or for something else, I'm not exactly sure. All I know is it can never be good. She would have died down there if it wasn't for Mura-san. Apparently, he helped her out, of course, with a price, to get her revenge on the Volga. Slaughter, which she seemed obliged to, for it's the first one to ever helped her in so long. And next thing, she broke from her chains and started slaughtering each and every one of them, while probably going through a horrible transformation.
The Angel
She
of
managed-
Chains, that was mentioned.
Yes, that's what Mura-san has done to her. But of course, after she did destroy the Volga, unfortunately there was some collateral damage and lives lost that was unintended. And she's been trying to help them out a little bit she can. Then the day I actually met her, she was being chased by a Morgul. Morgul, sorry. Morgul. So we rescued her and avoided a unfortunate fight since we were separated at the time. And I've been trying to help her ever since, and so has my friends, until she tried to kill my master. But it was not of her own free will, like someone else was talking to her, which obviously must be Mura-san, having some kind of communications with her. But after we found out the truth that it was him behind it all, thanks to the Time Mage, we know we couldn't let her suffer that fate again, that we must help her as best we can. We also managed to reunite her with her family, which we were hoping she would either stay or she could come with us and help us take down Mura-san, Delabros, and any other evil plots along the way, maybe even. But it didn't go as planned. She decided she thought she wasn't safe being around one she loved, since she turns into a terrifying angel of death and chains. So she thought to isolate herself, to get away, and while we deal with the big threat, which I feel it's my fault I let her go. I mean, I didn't want to do it, but then again, she said it was the first time she ever get to do anything herself for once, that she felt free, at least this moment. I didn't want to feel like I'm doing anything against her own will, so I carelessly let her go. And I didn't even think she would fall into the clutches of Mura-san again.
It sounds like it is a difficult situation you are in.
Yes. And at this point, I feel like I'm tearing myself apart. I don't know what to do. I mean, I know I want to save her, but now this Hades might be in the same place where she is. I will obviously want to try to stop that. If that should try to escape, if it's there, I just don't know. It seems every time I try to save people, every time I try to do a good deed, it's like the universe is trying to punish me, or I am doomed to fail in the end. But yet, I'm still here. I mean, yes, we saved and did many great things, me and my friends, but I still feel like there is something out there just trying to tell me something, but I just don't know what.
If I may offer you a word of advice, if you speak true, then I would encourage you not to succumb to fatalism. Nor would I encourage you to give in to pessimism. If you believe too hard that you are destined to fail, all you will find is failure. This much I have learned in my centuries alone out here.
She
That is-
glances sideways at you.
That is some very wise advice. Thank you. I needed that.
Heh.
Maybe I might be able to even get some rest now, and rest a bit easy.
It would be wise of you to attempt it. Regardless of my decision, doubtless you will be traveling tomorrow, and you will need your strength to brave these hellish wastes. Go get some rest. I'll ensure your slumber is not disturbed.
And she turns and begins...
Thanks again. Oh, before you go,
Yes?
it's, I suppose, just a little something, nothing too special, but I picked up a little book from my home, which I think you might like. It's nothing like magical spells or nothing, just like stories. I thought like your little cactus friends would like that. They
They
like stories.
cannot read.
Well, since you're a mother figure, then maybe, hopefully, you could read it to them sometime.
Which book is
As
this
I
again?
thought.
Refresh my memory. I honestly do not remember.
Oh, it's just like a thing we did off this, and also when I went upstairs and when I was back in my house. And what is that noise? Hang on a minute.
Sounds like background noise from someone's computer.
It is.
Hades.
What?
It's like you.
I don't think it's,
Traveling
I don't
in the
think it's, I don't
wind.
think it's Hades. I think it's Luminous.
Oh.
It was Hades. I was on Discord. I saw it.
I,
Oh,
okay, Luminous, I don't know what acronym it could be.
It's not mine. I
No,
was on mute.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
it's gone away now, so who fucking knows?
It was
Uh,
the man from the
it was the
cookies.
weird-
Anyway, I
breeze
need to
in
go
the
check on
wind.
something real quick. Be right back.
All right.
All right. But anyway, as I was saying, it was a story I did off. FF36 I sent you.
That. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
now. You remember? I remember. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
all right, you pull it out and you pass it off to Vise, and she gives it a look over, flips it open.
A tragedy. Though I can speak your tongue, I cannot read it.
Well, I guess the thought that counts. I'm
Good
gonna
job.
get some rest. Hmm. What was that?
Voice in the wind saying you could offer to try and teach her.
Maybe. I'm not sure yet.
A few seconds pass before she thumps it close and
Okay.
hands it back to you.
I appreciate the gesture, but I have no use for a tale such as this.
Fair enough.
Brownie points.
No, it's just being called a kind custom, but whatever.
Careful, Athena might get jealous.
Yeah, probably he found it as his. Anyway, well, as I said, the thought that counts, and so it's not to your liking.
Yeah, she's probably
Get
too
some
old for him
rest.
anyway.
There's
Well, for fuck's sake!
There's about a 200-year age difference here, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of somewhat relevant. Incredibly long-lived beings, like she's like.
There's a good chance she outlived me, though. I may basically
True.
escape death, but well,
Speaking of which,
negate
don't-
death, but I
don't
can't
Elvon-
deny death.
Don't Elvon have extended life periods?
mean,
In this setting, it is somewhat longer than the other races, barring the Pneumo, who are like the most venerable.
Oh no.
But the Elvon are not like super duper long lived like in other fantasy settings. You know, they can make it to about like 150 is like the oldest one on record.
Yeah. So they're not like every other elf that can live for like hundreds of years. With it like 100 years is just a blink of an eye or whatever.
Yeah, they're not like that.
so they on average have a couple of extra decades over human.
But anyway, as I said, well, was worth a try.
I'm someone that's already lived 2 lives, so I mean, I have no room to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
V's kind of
Yeah.
nods back at you,
Go get some sleep.
I will.
and she
Thank
turns in-
you, and have an easy watch.
And she goes and walks back into the foliage at the base of the tree, and you see her silhouette darting back up to where she was before. You are left to your own devices.
Well, just basically took one last look at the moon and then just probably went to sleep.
All right. And so, Alistair tucks himself back into rest. And, unless anyone has any objections, I think we will call it there for the night.
I think that's a good idea.
All right. All right.
So, this took a turn for oh shit.
Yeah, this.
Darkness,
I-
could you do me a favor really quick and check your goals really quick on your character sheet?
Well, I know one of my goals was to... Wait, did I do it? Have I finally accomplished the only bloody goal?
He has
I
one
did
goal.
it!
He has one goal.
Correct! I sort of learned a new lost civilization.
Yep. so you can
I
tick that
have
off.
3
Wait, what?
complete.
One of his goals was to discover a lost civilization, and it wasn't his life goal, but it was a goal.
Is that half the reason for this?
I designed your arcs around your characters and any unfulfilled goals you have. Yes, I designed it around.
Oh my!
Finally, I was waiting for this moment.
Right,
Like
so,
the
let's see.
beacon.
So that was a short-term goal, I do believe. So that means.
What are your other goals?
So that means, let's see here. Let's see here. So that means you get 2 points of destiny.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you ask my other goals are?
It would be handy to know.
Okay. Well, you ask. Anyway. Well, Kurmawasu of the plague.
Right, you did
Check.
that back in like the first 10 sessions.
And individually cure a form of disease. Check.
Yeah, you by technicality, beating the seed of the plague was that.
Mm-hmm. And now, finally, after a few arcs later, learn about a lost civilization.
What's your,
So
what's
he's
your
done
life?
all of his goals.
Except a life goal. What's the life goal?
Isn't that a bit early to say?
I mean, you're supposed to write that down at the start of the game, you dipshit.
I know, but I mean, is it a bit early to say?
I mean, mine is discover the mysteries of my past and Panara Blackstorm.
Yeah,
Which
you
I'm
you won't
gonna-
have completed your life goal yet, but I want to know what it is.
All right.
You're supposed to
I've
have
got
that
it.
written down at the very beginning of the game.
Yes, and I see it in life, so I guess life goals.
Yeah.
What is it?
One day with a retire, one day retire in my own home.
Okay.
Well, then you're not going to complete your life goal until literally the end of the fucking campaign. At which point, the
That's
destiny
why I
is
said,
useless.
isn't it a bit early?
Oh, that I just wanted to remember what it was.
Guys, I'm gonna.
The thing
I'm
is,
gonna-
complete the
all
life
right, guys,
goal.
it's my retirement day. See ya. Good luck with the
You
rest of the arc.
You complete your life goal, you get a shit ton of destiny. By the time you get that destiny, it's going to be useless.
Oh fuck!
I mean, the moment in my arc I discover who I am and who Panara is, I'm going to complete my life goal
and
get the destiny.
get 5 destiny points, right? All right. So, On that note,
Well-
thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for tuning in to this episode of Final Fantasy Chronicles of Eno. Join us next time as the party learns Visa's decision and goes from
I said
there.
it in the Discord chat.
So,
There it is.
yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you all next time, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Uh,
Bye.